everybody. Guess who's here with me? Now,
Hello.
Sean or Charles?
Sean's fine, yeah.
Sean Briscoe was on our show before. He likes to talk numbers. He's very good with looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
And we were just discussing her pick for Tim Walz.
And I would
President.
like to point out that my first pick in 2020 was Kamala. And honestly, I thought that Shapiro made more sense, but my real pick in my heart of hearts was Walz.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him.
So I actually did a show where I was on the White Dudes for Kamala calls. Like there were about 160,000 of us and there is like $4 million. This is solid. um I was on that, and he was one of the electeds that spoke, and I never heard him speak before. Never heard him. I knew who he was only because he was on a short list of 9 names, And I'll tell you, he impressed the hell out of me.
Just from that short speech.
Just he spoke for probably about maybe less than 10 minutes.
Well,
But
the Trump campaign is calling him fat and gray and all this. Look at
he's
Trump.
like only about 6 months older than Kamala.
He's 60 years old. He just turned 60. He's in there.
Yeah.
And he says, well, if you were a high school teacher taking care of a cafeteria and high school monitoring it, you'd be great too.
Oh, for 10 years, that's trench warfare for sure.
But I love his sense of humor. He's the one that used that weird.
That's what it was. He was so funny. He was so 100% funny. And he was like, that thing was 3 hours long. He was solid beginning of hour 3. So we had listened to a lot of celebrities and a lot of politicians and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you, he was a breath of fresh air after 2 hours of hearing people talk about how we need to work for Kamala and yada, 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 which I'm all about. But, after 2 hours. Also, so I've been doing this work for 26 years. Although my mom just reminded me that I was doing phone banking in 1986 when I was 11. So yeah, I'd forgotten about that. So I've been doing this work for a long time. I have listened to a ton of candidates over my lifetime. I've worked with and for over 200 campaigns. So when I see a candidate, I have a lot of pre-built-in assumptions. And I'll tell you, 99 out of 100 times, I know what I'm looking at.
Okay.
He surprised the hell out of me. And it's been a long time.
It surprised me he was in. And now that I'm watching YouTube videos and stuff, I'm really liking him.
Oh, no, he's super likable. He's very Midwestern, and he's just like the guy's guy kind of.
Yeah.
It was honestly, I would never put a teleprompter anywhere near him. I'd give him talking points and let him go. And I don't say that stuff lightly. He is so good off the cuff.
Somebody was talking, what is her name from Minnesota? She's the senator from Minnesota.
Klobuchar.
Yeah, she said he never goes on with a speech.
No, yeah, he's totally off script all the time.
Isn't that
which is exasperating for people like me who work in campaigns. But man, when you've got somebody who is just gold,
right.
Then
all of Congress loves him. They all love him.
Yeah, and I mean, even in like when he was a high school teacher, he was in the Straight Gay Alliance. He's always been I mean, the reason he fought so hard to have kids to have breakfast and free lunches at school is because he's a teacher.
He witnessed it.
He knows that hungry kids don't learn. And I mean, he just comes from a position where he's walk the walk and he can talk the talk. And I feel sorry for JD Vance just about this much, because he's got to go debate that guy. And JD Vance is going to try and be smart. I use the word try with extreme.
Well, you're using that quite loosely, may I add?
Yeah. And I don't think he has a clue as to what's coming down the pipe. Because I mean, this guy's got 20 years in the military.
Yes.
He's a teacher. So he's already handled
He's
hostile crowds for
he's a
hours.
hunter. He hunts for pheasant, but he's for gun control. He's for women's rights.
Oh,
Do you know
yeah.
anything about his wife, what she does, or
I really don't,
I'll
honestly.
have to look it up. I saw a
Yeah.
video of him with his daughter. Hope
Yeah,
is her
no,
name.
he's a good, I mean, just an all-around
And
dude.
they were at the fair and he said, we have a tradition, old and new. I'm gonna do the old, so we're gonna do this. And she picked the new and she says it's such and such right. He goes, okay. He said, and then we go eat. He's like me, his focus is on eating. And he said, we're gonna have something. I think it was chicken. And she said, Dad, I'm a vegetarian. And he said, oh, okay, then turkey. She said, Dad,
Yeah, that's
turkey
exactly
is,
this. That's
yeah,
the answer my dad would have given, 100%.
Dad, turkey is still meat. And he said, not in Minnesota, it's not.
Oh no. So I grew up on Guam, and I was a vegetarian for a good bit. And I would say I'm vegetarian. They're like, okay, we've got fish.
Yeah, you didn't say pescatarian, you said vegetarian.
But then I eventually became pescatarian because I'm like, I'm living in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. How am I not eating all this awesome food?
Yeah, and it's probably pretty clean fish, unlike
Oh
us.
no, it was good. Yeah, no, I mean, well, we used to go fishing.
Oh.
I grew up fishing in Texas. And then I moved out to Micronesia and I continued fishing instead of fishing rods. Well, we did a lot of rod and reel, but we used spears, so it was a different kind of fishing. But yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that I didn't like I love Mark Kelly, as you know.
Oh,
But
Mark Kelly's awesome.
I knew
We got
more
to keep
about,
him in the Senate.
yeah, that's what they're saying. He has
That's
to.
exactly, that's it. That's the reason.
And Josh Shapiro, any idea
So
that was about?
he's got a little, there's some things that were popping up. Um, he had some problems with his, teachers union, and there was some stuff about sexual harassment thing. It didn't involve him, but it was in his office and was handled great. Not that those things are ever
No, but
handled
I guess
great.
they have to keep an eye on what could come and bite them.
Yeah, and then
Of course, the Trump people would have a lot of nerve bringing up past sexual harassment.
oh, you're right. Oh, but they would,
They
100%.
would, yeah.
I mean, absolutely. And then he's got and then with the Middle East blowing up, you know, do you really want to bring on that kind of baggage when you're, you know, do you
Yeah.
want to just give the other side more ammunition? That's really what it is.
You know who he reminds me a little bit of, but I don't know him either, is Tester.
Yeah, a
There's
little
a
bit.
little bit of Tester in him, kind of a down to earth, middle America. Understands. They were showing pictures of him with all the students screaming for joy when he signed the bill for lunches and breakfast. And then they showed Sarah Jessica Parker, no, Sarah Huckabee, sorry, signing the bill for kids to work. And they showed those little kids there in suits looking so gloomed. And then
Oh
all
yeah.
the other kids with him are screaming and kissing him.
It's just what's really interesting, I found out when I was looking at the polling for this guy,
Yeah,
there's very limited polling, but man, the millennials like him.
they
I don't
do.
know if they see like grandpa or something. I don't know what they see, but I mean, I like his policies and I can see why his policies would translate very well, but he doesn't look like the kind of candidate you would think a millennial would be into, but they love him. He does very well with that
Isn't
millennial
that
universe.
something?
And
Because
and I'm gonna
she, Vice President Harris went through this with a fine tooth comb.
Oh, I mean, well, what was interesting is when I was doing so on my channel, I did a demographic breakdown of the swing states. And so you can see the population, female, male, and the size. So it kind of looks like a pear. That the inside part, that's my generation, the X generation were very small, but then it goes out again, and that's the millennial generation. And in a couple of the swing states, the millennial generation is bigger than the boomers or equivalent to the boomers. So you've got a huge population of voters there. The vast majority, if they voted, would vote Democrat.
Yeah,
Whereas meanwhile, we're splitting the boomers 50-50 almost.
yeah.
So you're like there's a perfectly good universe of voters if you just did a little bit of work and just reached out to them just a little bit. And I'm wondering if that had something to do with their choice, because it would make sense to me, working the math. Um, where do you want to be in 8 years?
Yeah,
What are the voters going to look like in 8 years? You know? And it tells me those millennials are just gonna keep going up, right? And I mean, there's your universe. So
right.
it's kind of like those Reagan Democrats, that the boomers turned into.
Yeah,
And then they've just ridden that wave, for decades now. So I'm feeling like this may be that kind of situation where we've got a huge generation bump, and it's like got the inertia to push forward all of these programs and policies, and to kind of make the US just a little bit better and a little easier for middle class and people are just trying to buy a house and have families.
yeah,
I mean, that's the group that's going to be doing that.
yeah.
So
It's
it
about
seems to
them
me
now. It's
that
not
that's,
about it. Yeah.
you know
So, may I say, Steve Knork, whatever his name, Knork, the Kenorkian or Steve Kenorkian on MSNBC, the one
oh
that
yeah, 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 yeah.
he
Yeah.
keeps going back to when Biden was running and Trump and using those numbers almost like it's like this. Personally, my psychic impression is nothing like that. I think
so
she
so
brings a whole different ballpark.
so what you have to understand is, um there's a couple things that have happened since the
He and
last
I talked
2020
last time.
election, right? 20 since the 22, all that. So in 22, we had they got rid of, well, and they overturned Roe. So that's a huge. So all you need, like, to turn Texas blue, all you need is like 3% of the registered voters that don't vote, which make up almost 60% of registered voters in Texas, just to get off their butts and vote. I
Yeah.
call it the
Oh,
apathy vote. You got
yeah.
20%, you got like 21% Republican, 19% Democrat, and 60% apathy vote.
Yeah.
If 2 or 3% of them bothered to show up and vote, there'd be no more Republican Party nationwide.
But
Without
they
Texas,
might because of this Roe
I
versus.
think I think it's a huge underestimated block of voters that they have no general election history on. Okay, so you understand the thing about polling. They're polling likely voters. That means voters that have a voter history. Well, if you've got an entire generation of women that have just been woken up back in late 22, uh, so we were 13 for 13 for special elections in this country. The Democrats are. Uh, 22 was supposed to have the big red wave, and it was barely a red ripple. Um, that universe of voters, and then you've got like T Swift for freaking Harris. Are you kidding me? Or Beyonce for Harris? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, That's game match.
White men for Harris.
Oh, dude. Oh no. Yeah. I mean, I was on that. It was a. It was a. They had like a whole thing, and yeah, it was great. I mean,
Was George, just out of curiosity, was Clooney there?
I did not see Clooney.
Clooney's the one that was screaming about Harris.
Uh,
I
you
think he was
know,
mad because his wife didn't get what she wanted.
multimillionaires can complain all they want. They have nothing to complain about.
I
They
know.
live the American dream. They've little or nothing. I love Clooney movies, but I don't look to Clooney for my policy or understanding of what it means to live on 40,000 a year. That's not a
Exactly.
Clooney issue.
And that's the thing with Vice President Harris. She was middle class. She knows what struggle is. And same with
Same with him. Yeah,
and President Biden. He was middle class.
absolutely.
And the same with our VP pick.
Right, right. Waltz is
But
also,
I don't
yeah.
think a lot of people know. It's not like her that a lot of people knew about her. I think a lot of people don't know about him, and it's the more information we get, the more we're gonna
They've
like.
had like 15 hours so far, or 12 hours or something.
Yeah,
It's like they haven't had any time yet. Um, so what's really going to be interesting is we're gonna have biographies and all of his legislative history and all that stuff is going to spill out over the next 4 or 5 days, right? And then the Sunday shows are going to have their go. And they're going to be giant things of nothing but the ticket, right? Meanwhile, Trump's just spinning and going insane because he can't do it. His ego will not allow him to not try and make noise for himself. He's a
Yeah,
noise machine. He's like a political shark. If he's not moving forward, then he dies.
yeah,
So he has to keep moving forward. And the only thing that he's got left is hate and racism. They're the only things that make enough noise where it creates enough energy where he can sustain himself.
yeah.
Well, hate and racism,
It's outdated.
oh, yeah. Well, it's never outdated.
I
There's
know.
always a consumer
But
for it.
first
But
she was Indian and now she's black.
I know that
Now, when
nonsense.
did she magically turn black? Well, when she was born, she was black.
And what's funny is everyone's like, "Oh, Trump when Rogan said that." No, he didn't.
Yeah,
No, he didn't. No, no, no. He was read Project 2025 and understands the people that are working on Trump's campaign know that that was absolutely 100% planned. That was a talking point they vetted and worked out. That was not Trump going rogue. That's today's GOP. 100%.
and I just had a show with Andre, and like he said, once before the Supreme Court was ugly like this Supreme Court. And what happened was people went in and voted, and they voted big. If we
Yeah.
vote big, we'll have enough people to totally change that whole Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely. I was in so in 22, it was like right after they released that letter saying how they were gonna overturn Roe. I didn't get invited. I was somebody's plus one. He worked in for a municipal entity in Central Texas, and he got invited to a meet and greet with a bunch of Republicans. It was like congressional and state house reps, and I'm not throwing any names around, but there were four of them, and I got to sit and talk to all of them, drinking a little bit of wine. And this was like 48 hours after that letter had been released.
Yeah,
They were so pissed that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe.
for real.
You
I
have to-
heard this as rumor.
Right. Because they've been raising trillions of dollars over a half century on this one issue. I actually have a show on my channel talking about Karl Rove and where he came from and what they were able to do in Texas in 1978. And literally 16 months later, Reagan's president. I mean, there is a direct line to money and votes that they've been relying upon for half a century that are no longer, they don't have their number one issue.
So all the time they were just threatening that they were going to stop abortions, and then when
they're the dog that caught the car for 100%. And now they're in the wheel drum and they're just spinning around getting chewed up. And their fundraising's down.
Yeah.
Plus the NRA is not allowed to launder Russian money into their party anymore. So, that got cut off. So they got all sorts of problems. And I mean, it's just a perfect, and then they're stuck with Trump, who was rocking and rolling as the young candidate, I mean, come on.
And then he tells those journalists, the baby will be born and then they kill it, which is a total lie.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're literally, well, I mean, what was it? In the last debate, he averaged a lie every, I want to say 52 seconds. They did the math. It was bad.
Yeah.
And in that interview with the African-American journalist, so I'm planning my shows because I get on my computer and I have MSNBC on or CNN on, and I've got my, I'm doing my research and Googling and figuring out, make sure all my little math and my graphs are right. And then that comes on. I'm not even planning on watching it. And I'm watching it going, oh, I'm gonna need some popcorn for this. It was so bad.
It was
so bad.
And whenever he's playing the accordion, he's lying.
Oh yeah, when I was like, well, yeah. You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Like a barker at a carnival.
Yeah.
It's
like people say, why do they even go there to these Trump rallies? And can I tell you something between you and me? Don't you guys listen. If he was down the street from me where I had no effort to go see him, I would go just to see the carnival.
Oh, I have friends that have gone just to get kicked out of his carnival.
Yeah.
A very good friend of
Because
mine,
everybody loves
very
the
good friend of
pumpkin.
mine. In 2016, it might have been late 2015. He went to a rally here in Dallas, and he dressed, cowboy all the way, bolo, big hat. They let him in, so he's got a beard, walks with like that authority, and walked right in. They gave him a front row. They were exactly the guy that he needed Trump to see in Texas, right?
Yeah.
My friend's crazy liberal. And he's like up there and he's like, tell us about your healthcare program. Which, by the way, it's been the better part of a decade and no one's seen this mystical,
Oh,
super
he told
awesome
60
healthcare
Minutes or
program
something. It
that
was
was going
right
to solve
around.
all of our problems. He was like, let's get rid of the ACA first and then we'll do a healthcare program. It's nonsense.
Well, that's the one time that Roberts actually did the right thing. He said, how can I vote to get rid of ACA when you have nothing else on the table and millions are going to lose their health care?
Oh, and McCain saved the ACA, 100%. And then he didn't invite Trump to his funeral.
He did show up.
No, Trump did not. He wasn't allowed.
No, he was there because I
Was he
remember.
there?
Yeah, the daughter went up there and gave a spiel and talking about ugly towards him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
I
thinking.
thought he wasn't invited.
Maybe I'm thinking of George Bush.
Because I know Bush was there, Clinton was there, Obama was there.
Yeah.
But Obama liked McCain. McCain and Obama got along. I mean, they were competitors in the general, but they actually got along just fine. Also, McCain was a decent human being.
He was decent.
He was actually, my dad was crazy liberal, but my dad used to tell me all the time McCain was his favorite Republican.
Yeah, and also remember when Lindsey Graham used to really love McCain?
Oh no, absolutely. They were, I mean, honestly, when McCain died, I think the conscience and the soul of the Republican Party died.
Was gone.
Yeah. Because between Lindsey Graham and um oh, and Mitch McConnell,
Oh.
those two walking sacks of poop, trying to use good language. Yeah. And Mitch McConnell's done more damage to this country than Trump could ever dream to do. I mean, the only way Trump could do more damage to this country than Mitch McConnell is if he got a second term. That's the only way. And so yeah. No, it's the Mitch McConnell, wow. I just can't, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
He stole an entire branch.
Oh, and then he told Obama, I don't know why, what did Obama just not have the numbers in Congress?
No, he never.
Yeah,
no, it was the numbers that, well, what it was Harry Reid. This is actually the problem. Harry Reid thought that Mitch McConnell would play by the same rules as Harry Reid played by. And then in 2010, when the Senate flipped, Mitch McConnell got rid of all the filibuster rules for any judicial appointments and then just killed. Like Obama had more killed judicial nominees by himself than all previous presidents added together.
Yeah.
And he has one unique attribute that none of those other previous presidents had, and it's melanin.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell's a huge racist.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Republican Party is full of them, 100%. And the people who vote, who say, oh, I'm not racist, but you vote with racists, I don't care if you're not racist.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore. We're past that already.
But how's Texas looking as far as voting is concerned?
Just, we don't have the resources necessary to change the state. That's what it boils down to. I actually, I have a show this week coming on talking about how to turn Texas blue. And I just do the numbers and run and just show people, what would have to be done just on a ground basis. And I'm not talking media buys. And we have some of the most expensive media markets in the country, right? So just the ground field program is almost $40 million. So you could take that money and have a decent chance of winning one Senate seat, or take that money and go win 3 Senate seats. Because that's the difference. So when you're the DSCC and you're looking around, you're like, well, yeah, Texas gives us $150 million a cycle, because we do. Um, but you know why, if we reinvested half that back into the state, we could change the state blue. Or we could take that money and, win in like 3 or 4 other states. So it's the difference between 1 Senate seat and 3 Senate seats.
Right. Now, what
There-
about Florida?
Same difference with Florida. It's just expensive. Plus, you got hurricanes. When I was working there in 22 with my field team, we got hit by Ian. And Ian cost us $100,000 probably.
Yeah.
So, and this is the worst hurricane season ever recorded by man, according to NOAA. So, in fact, I told my firm we're not going to Florida. Everyone agreed because Florida's a rough place to run
Too
anyway.
dangerous.
But I was like, guys, we're just not going to get paid. We're going to get hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and they're just going to shut us down.
Yeah.
So you can't canvas in 100-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah, but that, can I tell you psychically, and I could be wrong, I'm feeling it. Florida, I was shocked actually, to tell you the truth, when my realm said that Florida could turn blue.
Yeah. Well, and they should, because their cost of living there is insane. And
They're
it's all
very
because of
mad
the
they're very mad at DeSatan.
DeSantis, yeah. And the reason DeSantis won in 22 by such a huge, like 19-point margin, was because he outspent the Democrats 20-1.
Oh.
Yeah. Because the Democrats were super worried about a blue or the red wave, right? In 22, that they just went balls to the wall in every state they knew they could hold. And they fully funded. I mean, you pick a state, and they were there. And that was also part of the reason there wasn't a big red wave, because they didn't dump a whole money in Florida in 22. They were using it in states that cost a third the price of Florida.
Yeah.
It's the same seat at a third the price.
Yeah, I just said that the Harris campaign just announced that since they've announced this VP that
They
they
got 10
brought in
million.
another 10 million.
Yeah, 10 million. That's solid. That's not bad. That's about $1 million an hour.
But don't you just love this President Biden? Wasn't that wonderful what he did?
Oh yeah, no. I've actually got a show coming up on my channel this week.
Good. Now, how do we watch your show? What is it?
It's CLSB. C as in cat, L, S, B as in boy.
It'll be posted below you.
Yeah. Yeah, she'll post it below. Politics. Yeah, check out this week I've got a show about why they were concerned about Biden. I go back and I look at all the approval ratings back to Truman, and I compare Biden to all of them all the way to today. And we're comparing it at like day 1006. We're keeping it real. And if you look at the race of the candidates who've lost, as that there were incumbents, Biden was right there with them.
Wow.
Yeah, including Trump, including Carter. I mean, including Bush, the Bush one, yeah. So if you look at all the, certainly in the modern times, and Ford too. Ford was also right there with Biden. So you look at all the modern presidents, since they've really been keeping track post World War II. Biden was right there with every incumbent who lost. And then if you look down ballot, it just got worse for the Senate and Congress.
Yeah.
And with Project 2025 out there, and on my channel, I do a 15-part program, and you can pick it by topic on Project 2025. I break it down to 15 pieces.
Yeah.
Because it's so horrible and it's so big. It's 930 pages of the worst policy I've ever read in 26 years. It's freaking horrible. And I break it all down on my page, and I keep it kind of simple, 5 to 8 minute videos. I don't, but they were looking at that going, we're done. These guys do this, we're cooked. I mean, as a people, as a country. It wasn't like, and then I think Biden also realized it. And he's got numbers people too. But and I don't like the way they got rid of him, but
He
it
was
was
planning on staying in. This wasn't something he
no,
prefab.
this was not like the Republicans like, oh, Biden always planned to leave. No. For one thing, I've met Biden. He's not a quitter. He's
No,
also a stand-up guy. He also does the job he says he's gonna do.
yeah.
So what
What he threw in the pot though was throwing her in there because
so
people like the Hollywood elites, they said, we'll figure it out at the convention. And he said, no, you won't. We're going to do her. And when he mentioned her, that was it. Everybody was behind her.
yeah. That was game. That was check and mate, actually. That was Biden saving us again.
Okay.
You know?
But you just gave me that acknowledgement face. Tell me what you know about that.
Okay, so yeah, based on the hubbub that I heard that night from various contacts, uh, yeah, the powers that be, and these are not people that are important. They're not even really they're not even, I don't think any of them were even elected officials. These are
But
all
they
just
have
money
money.
people. Yeah, they're money people. And they wanted to be the kingmakers. Because also in this business, understand everybody I want to be a kingmaker.
Right.
You know, everybody wants that job. So this doesn't surprise me at all, especially, knowing, I mean, having seen what I've seen, it doesn't surprise me. But uh but Biden did a checkmate on them, thank God. And he saved us. I think that's Biden saving us for the third time. I think he saved us because he helped get Obama elected. And he was able to get the ACA through because he knew how the Senate worked. So he saved millions and millions of people, especially now you consider COVID, right?
Yeah.
Um, so then he saved us again when he beat Trump second time, and now he saved us a third time. Because if he had not gotten Kamala locked into that position, even with Roe getting overturned, we would have taken a hit with women of color, women in general.
Yeah. I always felt if he did, somebody was saying to me, so who's going to pick his VP? I was like, what do you mean? He wouldn't dare get rid of her.
No, I mean, no, I think he knew that she, even if it's not, and if it's not really true, there's no reason for a vice president to be the next president. It's not really how that works. Vice president's there if something happens to the current president, and then they break ties in the Senate and they do a couple other things. But the perception of the people, because apparently we stopped teaching social studies, I don't know, 20 years ago. uh they think the VP is the next heir apparent, and they can look at Reagan and Bush as a
Yeah.
thing, and then Gore ran after Clinton,
Yeah.
and then Biden didn't run after Obama because his son
Had
had
died.
all the health issues and then passed away. So there was that break. So really, the VP is not the heir apparent.
Right.
But Biden knew, he had the forethought to understand the perception of the American people, and more importantly, women of color and women in general, that they have, I mean, you can understand Hillary Clinton was the most qualified
Oh, I know.
person to ever run for president in the history of our United States, except maybe for Jefferson. He spoke
Yeah.
6 languages. He was ambassador to Russia. He literally signed all the original docs. I mean, you have to go back to him to
Wow.
find somebody with that resume, where, yeah, she was a first lady, but she was a wingman for the president for 8 years. That counts.
Yeah.
Right. She was also a lawyer, a very good lawyer in
Oh, I know. She
Arkansas.
was smarter than
So she's got
Bill
law.
Clinton.
She's
Yeah.
got 8 years in the White House. Even if you're a mushroom, you picked up stuff in the White House for 8 years. And then she was a U.S. senator. And then she ran for the seat. And then state secretary. Find me another. There's not one. I
No,
looked.
but Russia was in the middle of this.
Oh,
And
for sure.
she
100%.
just happened to catch, because she was such a smart woman, people got turned off. I don't think that.
Oh, and Big Pharma. And Big Pharma. Don't forget about those
But I think the nation is changing, and I think that this vice president's gonna win.
I think Kamala, it's hers to lose. It's hers. Trump's garbage, and he looks like garbage. And I mean, for a guy who's complaining about people changing race, I think he used to be white, but now he's orange. So I don't feel like.
But you were saying you could see when your face changed that. So what Biden did was throw her in the pot because he knew.
Oh yeah, no, he absolutely knew. Because you understand, everyone wants to be a kingmaker, including Biden. I mean, everybody wants to be a kingmaker at every level, city council on up.
But he must have known, and he
Oh,
also,
he knew.
between you and me and the audience,
And
I
an
really
audience.
think he wanted to give Trump what for?
Oh yeah, no, I think.
Work against this, USOB.
Oh, the optics of Trump trying to lay into a woman of color on a national
A
stage
smart, very smart woman.
with Roe on the line and a Supreme Court that's out of control and everything else that's, yeah, they're not. No, it's that's an optic that any Democrat operative would love to see, and I plan to bring my
And
popcorn.
I'm telling you, he just
Oh,
loved talking
and-
about how senile Biden was and how old he is. Now he's the old man.
Oh yeah, no, he's ancient. He's the oldest nominee in the history of our country. So so all of his arguments now are on him.
Yeah.
Also, he'll never debate her.
I was feeling that too. I felt he'd be too afraid.
Oh, he's absolutely scared of her, 100%.
What
Hey,
about Walz and JD Vance?
I don't think JD Vance will. I think they're gonna do. No, we're not debating. They're not even supposed to be on the ticket. Blah, 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 blah. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. Those not the people we agreed to debate.
The Democratic convention, is it just going to be flowing? I don't see much upset.
So. Everyone was worried about a repeat of Chicago, right? 1968. I think it's gonna be more like a lovin'. I mean, it's gonna be like flowers and rainbows and I I may have an opportunity to go. I usually don't go to those things because I've been, it's like
be careful that the virus is going out again.
Right. I mean, I just don't. I like to knock on doors. I like to do the math. I like to actually move the numbers.
Yeah.
The rah stuff is great and it's super necessary. And also it's part of how our party gets organized. And it's great for just informing the general population of what.
And this will be all televised. I'm happy with televised.
I mean, that's how I found the president I wanted to work for in 1994. Obama spoke.
Yeah.
So I always watch it on TV.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I do watch it on TV.
Right.
But I mean, going there.
Did you notice that MSNBC, who always covered Trump when he was speaking, which pissed me off, and hardly ever touched Biden, suddenly are showing all of Kamala's?
What I was noticing was they weren't really covering Trump very much because they knew, I think a lot of them had learned from 16. They gave him too much because he's such a giant dumpster fire that I'm sure they got great advertising numbers from that. And at the end of the day, they're a company that's there to make money. That's why when news industry talks about pharma to me, I'm like, I'll read about it. Thank you. Because every other commercial's pharma.
I know, that's true.
So you're going to tell me that they're going to undercut what's bankrolling their entire show? Not likely.
So
I always consider the source.
Can I ask you one other question? Sure. Do you think one of the reasons that the bigwigs, the kingmakers, didn't want her was because she was going to be like Biden? She would go on with what he said as far.
No, I don't. I think it was they're scared.
Oh, because I do feel that she's going to do more taxes on the rich and all everything Biden was starting.
Well, that's Congress. Yeah, she'll sign it, but Congress has to vote for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually the president really doesn't have a whole lot of. everyone always thinks the president's got all these superpowers.
No.
And yeah, they can do some actually the Supreme Court kind of gave them a bunch of
Yeah, I
superpowers.
mean, he can
Those
go
are
in there
brand
and
new.
get
Those
rid
aren't
of
even
Thomas and Alito. He can just say, out of here.
So I love the fact that that Supreme Court will now have empowered the first POC female president in the history of our country.
Isn't
I
it?
think that is hilarious. And also karma like a, ton of bricks. So but I think they're just scared. I think they have Hillary on the brain.
Yeah, but Hillary doesn't have
40 years they banged on Hillary.
she
40 years.
and she's 100% for Kamala.
Oh yeah. That wasn't even
100% for her.
that took 0 seconds.
Yeah. So another little piece of good news, you guys, and I mentioned this on my show with Andre, because this Walz is running for VP, the lieutenant governor of Minnesota is a Native American woman, and she will
She'll be the
new
first.
governor.
She'll be the first.
The
Native
first
American
Native,
governor
as a
of any
Comanche
state.
Native myself.
Oh, yay.
I'm very proud of our sister. Yeah, I'm a registered Comanche in it. When I say Linda G. Comanche, it's because I really am Comanche.
I'm Irish.
Oh, well, my dad was Irish. That wasn't his fault.
Well, everybody, we're the people who built the boats and hung out the ports. Everybody's a little Irish.
Yeah, my dad is Irish, English, and Dutch and German.
Well, there you go.
And my mom is
all
Mexican, native Comanche. I can, because I have an allotment number.
Sure.
And 3% African.
I'm 1.2%.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. My son said, yeah, mom, a lot of people have it. I was all like, don't mess with me because I'm a sister. Then he said, Ma, everybody has a little bit. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
my kids are 1/4 Filipino and 1/4 Czech, and then whatever I am. And so we did the 23andMe thing, and they're the planet Earth at this point.
yeah,
It's like
that's like my kids too. Their dad, what's their dad? French and something else.
yeah, I think in like 5 or 6
And my
generations.
first husband was Russian, Polish.
Right. I think in 5 or 6 generations, it's gonna just be,
It's going to be a soup.
oh, it's super soup. All my friends' kids are all nothing but soup already. My kids are definitely soup. They're all really good looking too. Way better
Oh
looking
yeah,
than we
when
were.
you
Oh,
mix
yeah.
the
I'm like,
blood, oh, good looking. You know what? My favorite. I was a L&D nurse at a county facility. I really enjoyed Japanese mix with
yeah, I grew up on an island full of
Mexican.
hat.
Oh my God, good looking.
So in the 90s when I lived on Guam, I think the mixed race families in the States was maybe 4 to 7%, something like that. But on Guam, it was like 78%. I went to school with nothing but beautiful people, and
Oh,
it
I
was
bet.
annoying because there's like this and then all this really good looking
That
stuff.
beautiful,
Yeah,
tan.
everyone tanned. I got
Yeah.
cancer. There's only, I had red and white. Those are the 2 colors. And you're 13 degrees from the equator, so there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
But all my friends were really good looking.
yeah.
And yeah.
My I dated a guy from China. His parents immigrated here from China. And he could never introduce me. He was the nicest guy, but he could never introduce me to his family. He could not
that's a
date
thing.
Mixed white Mexican native woman.
I dated a
Korean,
few
a Japanese, no. It
Mhm.
had to be a Chinese woman.
Right. No, it's so growing up in Texas and in the South, I thought I knew what racism was. And then I lived in Asia.
Oh,
It's next level.
he was such a good
But
guy.
there's a lot of like it's like ours is like, hundreds of years of slavery, and yeah, there's all this stuff and the civil rights and also okay. The Koreans and the Japanese have a lot of reasons to hate each other.
Oh, absolutely.
The islands
Hate each other.
and the Marianas, because of the history, especially with Japan going through there during World War II, like there are people there that are like, they killed my great grandmother.
Yeah, and they haven't
After
forgotten.
all sorts of terrible things happened. I mean, like worst case scenario, and it's all like my grandmother knows, and she saw it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's World War II. So it's like all like still in the family.
Still in the family.
Directly, like you can get a first person,
Yeah,
telling in your family about what went down.
yeah,
And the Chinese and Japanese, same thing. Not
yes.
cool. Not cool. And
But you know
so
what's
they're
interesting? Japan has zero population growth. They don't
um
allow immigrants.
well, demographically, they've actually been trying to do a lot to mitigate that. But yeah, they've got a real problem. But they've right now Japan's probably the best place on the planet to have a kid.
But
Because
nobody's having kids.
oh no, no, they are. I
They
mean,
are?
you can see it in their demographics.
Oh,
China, on the other hand, will probably not exist 10 years from now.
really?
Mhm. They're at they've been at negative well, see that one child policy that they rock and rolled for 40
I
years,
remember.
gutted their
And they
population.
killed a lot of the female babies.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons. But the one child policy, which is part of that, the fact is that at the end of the day, there's only one kid. However many got killed, whatever. The one kid that grew up to be an adult, that's all that really matters for reproductive level. So when you look at their demography, it's it's an inverted pyramid. So a health like farm agricultural, they do this. Our states are like this, right? The old's at the top and the young are at the bottom. And but in China, it's an inverted. So they have no young, and there's no one to replace anyone at the top that are all dying off. Yeah. So China will actually lose, they've lost critical mass. And demographers are saying 10, 15 years from now.
And then they had COVID really hard too.
Oh, yeah, and then yeah, that's not, and we'll never know. Like they've stopped reporting their
Oh, yeah.
demographics like 4 years before COVID. Um but what you can look at is their labor costs, and they're up 1,200%. So that's why Apple's having such a hard time, because Apple makes all their phones in China, but since they don't have enough workers to actually do the work that the infrastructure is designed to do,
Yeah.
they no longer can
And
they're getting replaced by Vietnam, which has a very healthy demographic. The Philippines, which is them Catholics, man, they're gonna have some babies.
they're gonna co-create.
Oh,
And
they
let me
got
ask you
procreation
something.
down.
Can you give me, because I'm sorry, you guys, my son is very interested in this. What is Japan doing?
So they hugely subsidize families that want to have babies. The woman gets like full paid leave for a year to have the kid. Oh yeah, 100%. Just covered. Childcare is covered. You don't have to worry about food for your kid. All the stuff's just covered. They just paid for everything. And then to offset their missing population, which country is the best at robotics? Japan. Yeah,
That's true.
their service industry is switching to is going heavily automated to offset the missing chunk of their population that would normally be working in the service industry. So they're actually I mean, it's kind of already, the trajectory is already there, but what they're doing is but what's interesting, it's like Germany's got problems, Italy's got problems, Greece has problems, most of Europe, uh, France is okay because of they've have so much immigration.
Yeah.
Canada was stopped having babies in 1968 for some reason, but they've offset their problem with huge immigration. That's why you can go into cities in Canada and it's all Filipino, all Chinese, all Korean.
When
They
I landed in
immigrated
France,
their way out of the
it was
problem.
Middle Eastern.
Oh yeah, yeah, Middle Eastern too, sure. So you've got demographic problems all through Europe. So what's interesting is that China is an export only country, right? They import all of their food, all of their energy, and they export all their goods. They no longer have a consumer population. They have no one that can consume the cars. If you look at their car sales, they
Yeah.
never recovered from COVID because there's no one there to buy the cars. So they're export only. Now the problem is the best importing uh, market in the world is the United States. But like Japan and Korea figured out, the best way to sell cars in America is to have them built in America.
That's what they're
If you
doing.
drive a Toyota, it was built here. You buy a Kia, it was built here
Right.
probably, you know? And you got Chevy and Ford and everyone else.
Well,
But
you can't find those old Toyota trucks anymore.
yeah, they're worth a ton because those SR5 engines do not
They
break.
lasted forever.
They last forever, yeah. So we're our exports are about 3-4% of our GDP. I mean, we're completely energy independent. We need cobalt, a couple of other minerals that are kind of found, but like the biggest problem that the world's got right now, in my opinion, politically speaking, the reason we're gonna have the problems we're gonna have over the next 20 years is the industrialized food manufacturing infrastructure. So you got to have potash and nitrogen, and most of the countries that were not 30 or 40 years ago big agricultural countries,
Mhm.
they were able to import all of their fertilizers and potash and all that stuff. And it's all imported. Well, all that's being shut down because of, well, the fact is the United States post World War II said, tell you what, we're the only Navy that survived. How about we patrol everything? You cut out Russia because they're the bad guys now, right? And and anyone else we don't like, Iran, whatever, pick one. Um, and we'll make sure that trade is safe, that your shipment will go from point A to point B, and we'll cover the bill. The reason we have a $37 trillion deficit in this country is because we bankrolled the free trade for the globe
Oh, wow.
because we had 500 cruisers and destroyers. It takes 500, 600 of those things to maintain the shipping lanes. Well, we have like 80 or 90 now. And we've got 13 super aircraft carriers because those 80 or 90 are defending those aircraft carriers. We're no longer designed around free trade because it really doesn't help us. Before
Yeah.
we were getting oil, that made sense.
But
Well,
now we're doing all the oil in the United
now
States.
we're an exporter. We don't need that. In fact, the Gulf War was really a war to make sure that our allies had oil. But
Yeah,
now we're providing oil to them.
yeah,
So that's not even a thing anymore.
yeah.
Uh, so so you'll see now as it all begins to unfold, the trade international trade environment that's operated for the last 60 years that built the entire industrial everything on the planet Earth is all going away. All the countries that rely on it, like China, with 2.5% of their land is agriculture, can't feed a billion people with 2.5% of your land. That's why they're getting in really in those greenhouses. The thing about those greenhouses is they take a ton of fertilizer and
Yeah.
nutrients. Well, all that's imported, and it's all imported from oil states. Well, I mean, Australia could take out China now just by blocking one trade route, and there would be no more China. Like
Wow.
China can't take Taiwan because China makes that move all right, a media embargo. So that means China gets no more oil. They have no more fertilizer, nothing, no more natural resources. They're cut off. They'll get a little bit from Russia, maybe, but like a fraction of a percent of what they need, right? 6 months, they're the dark ages. 6 months after that, half their population dies of starvation.
Wow,
1 year.
this is so
It's
interesting.
crazy. Yeah,
Dad, you are so interesting. Thank you for all this information.
well, there's a guy that has a bunch of really good videos. His name's
Yeah.
Peter Zen. I'm a big fan of his.
Well, how do you
Uh,
spell his last name?
Here, 3 seconds. Let me pull him up real quick. It's Zeihan. He's a demographer and
I'm
economist.
gonna start watching
Oh
him.
no, yeah, some of his stuff's absolutely amazing. Talks about the impact of the Ukraine war and why the Ukraine war is so important. Why that if we don't stop Russia there, um, then we got to stop them in a NATO country, and that's when nukes get involved.
Yeah,
So when the Republic to bring it back to our what we're actually supposed to be talking about, when the Republicans are talking about, oh, we shouldn't be in Ukraine, they truly have no idea what they're talking about. Not a clue
not a clue.
what they're talking
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you, my friend. Can you believe we're already almost at an hour?
All right. Well, it's so much fun talking to you.
But you
And
are, I could just listen to you for days.
well,
And can we mention your mom?
oh yeah, Nancy Jean's Garden. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that was his mom. Because she is really intelligent like you.
Yeah. So my mom worked in politics for a good bit. Um, I started working on campaigns in 96, 98. Um, and then I started working with her in 05. And then we worked together through Obama, so 08. And then a little bit in 10. And then I've just kept on going. But she retired because, she needed to start a third career or something, fourth
Yeah,
career. I don't know. I've
yeah,
lost track how many careers my mom's had at this point.
yeah. But she must be proud of you.
Well, she's proud of all of us, as she'll say.
Well, let me tell you, I could just listen, and you remind me of my son because my son's like you. He watches, he listens, he consumes info, and then he's just like this little computer that just starts giving me all this info. I'm like, whoa. I know he'd love you, so I'm going to introduce him to you to watch. So
Well, that'll be
thank
fun.
you so much.
Well, just remind everyone my channel is CLSB Politics.
I'll have it down there. Yep.
I'm a baby YouTuber, but we're growing.
You're
And
growing, and I'm going to put Peter Veihan.
it's Z.
Oh, I thought you said
Z as in Z, Eihan, Peter.
I'll put him down there for you guys if you want to look him up.
Yeah, he's great. He's on vacation right now, but he's got a ton of videos to watch.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
no problem.
Bye, you guys.
Bye, everybody.